Welcome. It has just gone 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and for those progressive states down south, it's 8 p.m. Wednesday, the 4th of October, and you are watching episode 107 of Regional Wrap. Regional Wrap, providing an insight of the issues affecting regional Australia and giving a voice to regional residents. My name is Bill Bates, and joining me on this episode, No Fish in Our Sea for Thee, is Neil Green. Neil is a fisherman with 48 years experience in the Burdekin and Bowling Green Bay region. During this time, he has focused on inshore net, crab, and reef line fishing, as well as owning and running his own seafood wholesale and retail shop in Ayr. Neil has since sat on multiple fishing industry working groups and committees, and is a former president of the Queensland Seafood Industry Association, where he led numerous industry delegations to federal and state ministers. Neil has won multiple awards for his environmental and industry achievements and has recently featured on several fishing podcasts and Sky News, speaking on the impacts of upcoming reforms to commercial fishing, quotas and bans. Welcome, Neil.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
It's just been just over 2 years since we last had you on with David down from Mackay. Then we were just talking about the cutback in quotas, and since then the government's moved on to really smashing the quotas for Spanish mackerel, which was another issue. And now we've got this issue in regards coming up to gill nets, effectively in the first instance for the Great Barrier Reef fishing, but there is certainly indications that a move's afoot to make it even wider and actually start getting into the Gulf country and sort of affecting fishing there. So where are we at the moment, and where are we heading to?
Well, can I just go back to the 5th of June, Bill, when we got the announcement that our fishing businesses were going to be shut down, our net fishing businesses, by the end of this year. That actually will happen at the end of this month, because then our barramundi season closure starts, and so effectively we'll be shut down the end of this month. You know, we were notified via a press release that this was getting shut down. There was absolutely no consultation. There's been no science, and there certainly was no warning. So, you know, we've come from a situation where we were going through, as you just said, through issuing a quota, and we thought we were on the right track and we were going to be managed through that sort of system. But honestly, these governments knew all along that this was coming, and they were being shut down, and it was virtually all done via the Prime Minister, who met with UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation, 12 months ago, and signed off on 10 high priority points, which included stopping gill netting in the GBR area and some of the Gulf of Carpentaria. So that's exactly what's happened. The federal government's been bullied by the UN, and the UN's holding it over them that they were going to put the Great Barrier Reef on the endangered list if they didn't do something to save it. So that the first thing to do was the low fruit and the prime industry tree, and that was the net fishing. And they've shut us down, given that to UNESCO, and UNESCO has come out with a lovely press release to say, look, we're happy with what you've done so far. Yep, that's good. We won't put it on the endangered list this year, but we'll come back next year for another chop. And that's what we'll see then, is those other priorities, which included grazing, farming, bananas, growers. We are in for a hell of a fight here, and from our point of view, we thought we'll just start here, and we've had great support from these other industries, that we need to say, honestly, we don't need to be ruled from across in France by some other organisation. This is rubbish.
Well, not only that, they're an unelected body, but we seem to be surrendering our sovereignty, or the governments, seem to be surrendering our sovereignty on just about every issue you can think of, which is a bit frightening. I mean, we used to hear this as sort of conspiracies, theories, and all that years ago, but these things are now turning into real dramas for real people. And like you say, it's not just fishing. This is going into basically all primary industries, from cattle to crops, anything that's to do with land, and now obviously with the sea. But it sort of gets me in regards to, they can so easily pick on Western nations and developed nations, and they sort of capitulate. But are they trying the same thing on people like in Indonesia and Thailand, which have fairly large fishing industries as well?
It's certainly not. We just seem to be the easy target, and for some reason our governments want to bend over backwards for these people. I mean, if you look at one of the things they're talking about, we're going to protect hammerhead sharks, for instance. Now, anyone that knows anything about hammerhead sharks knows that their breeding is done up in Indonesia. So the large fish go up there to breed, and then they come back along the coast. And we've got these ships sitting out there from Indonesia, just catching these fish all the time, finning them. And any time the green groups want to get on their high horse and try and put their propaganda out, they take videos of that sort of stuff happening over there and then try and put it on that it's Australian fishermen doing it, which in most cases it is not. So, they're not game to go and touch these other countries. And yet we're here just being wiped out. I mean, we can't even get a reason for what's happening. They're saying we're saving the Great Barrier Reef by getting rid of us net fishermen. We actually net 80 kilometres from the Great Barrier Reef in creeks and rivers lined with mangroves full of mosquitoes. This has got nothing to do with Nemo. And it's just an absolute farce. And yet not one minister, whether it be the federal environment minister or the state primary industries minister, Mr. Ferner, will come and talk to us and say, give us a reason for this. I mean, surely we deserve that after a lifetime devoted out here supplying, seafood to Queenslanders. And what you were saying before about the other industries is definitely the case. And I mean, it's all written there in black and white from UNESCO. And it just seems to be, if you're a food producing primary industry, you're being targeted here. I can't understand that. I mean, why don't you want people producing food?
It's like the politicians have lost sight of what they're there for in regards to the whole picture. You've got people in charge of the environment, and that's one thing. But environment is just one part of the overall job of the government. Economic development, progress, wealth creation, and looking after people's another part of it. But they seem to go hell-bent for leather on one factor. It's like when they were dealing with COVID. It didn't matter about the economics or the effect on people. It was just this health bureaucracy and its dictate. And it seems now with our industries, it's the environment and nothing else. So as long as the environment's satisfied, it doesn't matter what the impacts are. They tick off on doing a good job. And it's also amazing how stacked these government departments of environment are, both in the federal sphere and especially Queensland, where you've got so many people who were officials or heads or activists within World Wildlife Fund, the Australian Conservation Society or Foundation, or the Marine Conservation Society. So if you're going to load up your environmental bureaucracy with those sort of people, there's no way you're going to get a fair hearing.
Well, that's right, Bill. I mean, there was a task force being set up by the Queensland government that we've gone and addressed, and that they're going to administrate the buyout of these licenses. And I can recall when the day that press release come out, a phone call come to me 5 minutes before it saying, listen, you're finished, it's all over, don't fight this, there's heaps of money there for you, just take the money and run. And that come from a department official. So that's like a red flag to me. I'm going to fight, and I'll fight to the end. And we put up a big fight. But we've gone to this task force, and industry's been very skeptical about it. I mean, it's all of those high-end. There's no one in there that knows anything about fisheries except for the independent chair. The rest are from Treasury, premiers, know nothing about fishing. But the independent chair that you would certainly think that he would know a little bit about fishing, but just happened to be a guy that's just done 7 years as a international representative for WWF. So he's come straight from 7 years as a director of WWF overseas to be an independent chair on fishing. And the same guy also wrote a paper for the Australian Conservation Marine Society on how we should get rid of net fishing, that was presented to UNESCO to shut us down. And that's, how could we have confidence in the way forward for this?
I think the same thing was occurred with when we had the Vegetation Management Act amendments back in about 2017. But the legislation, or draft legislation, was effectively written by the Australian Conservation Foundation and adopted by the government. Then they went out and took consultation. They went out to about 20 or 30 venues right across Queensland, had these consultation meetings, got 712 submissions from all different experts and that. Yeah, and one of the best guys who've ever worked in Queensland on woodlands and that was Bill Woodward, and he wrote a big paper and had photographic evidence, going back 100 years on the state of the woodlands and forest areas and grazing areas in Queensland. Yet not one word of that proposed legislation was changed before it was enacted. So that's what their consultation is worth.
Well, we didn't get consultation, zero. But the point being, UNESCO come over here on a mission tour, and they travelled last March up and down the Queensland coast, started Brisbane, ended in Cairns. They come to my district, the Burdekin, and spoke with some cane farmers here because, they're worried about runoff and that sort of stuff. They went all the way through. They spoke to every conservation group. They spoke to the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. In Cairns, they thought they'd go and speak to a representative of the recreational fishing group, and not one fisherman was approached, and we were the ones that they were here to shut down. You would think, even they could come and see our side. I mean, there's a lot of things we've done that, we would love to share with them, but no one's interested. They talk about dugongs. We've gone ahead in leaps and bounds with dugongs. I won an award in 2015, a state environment award for creating a dugong-friendly net. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. They just don't want to hear from us.
So the other thing is too, their science, it seems to come from obscure references and that. What was their basis, and how is stopping gillfit net fishing going to save or improve the Great Barrier Reef? I mean, taking fish off the reef that doesn't affect the corals overly, I wouldn't have thought. So what's their case as far as the science goes?
They haven't got a case. If they had a case, they'd be out here debating it with us. But so they're not prepared to do that. They're not prepared to talk to us. Remembering we don't net on the reef, we don't go anywhere next to the reef, we're 80 kilometres from the reef, and the best they could come up with that I've been told is our barramundi we catch in the creeks actually absorbs the carbon dioxide, so if we leave it in the water, it'll keep it there, but if we take it out, the carbon dioxide will go up into the atmosphere and go out and cause climate change and then bleach the reef. That's the best they could come up with. What a load of rot. And I mean, what I can see next is the recreational fishers. I mean, once they get rid of us along the Queensland coast, they'll come to the recreation. They do not want people to share in this natural resource out there. And that's the part that really rolls me up, because, not only the seafood consumers out there that we fish on behalf that want this, but also the wrecks. And, I can see the day that they're not going to go out unless we win this fight now.
It seems sort of a bit anti-development, anti-economy, all these sort of things. But we've also heard that the Chinese interest up in Papua New Guinea, they're talking about, I think it's Dawu Island or something, talking about putting a fishing operation or factory up there. So obviously no one's picking on Papua New Guinea in regards to their fishing rights or anything like that. And if you do actually get the situation where the Chinese actually have a fishing base, basically at the tip of Cape York, whereabouts are they going to go and fish?
It's pretty obviously what's happening. We don't know what deals are being done, behind closed doors between countries. We talk about the Gulf of Carpentaria. I mean, how would you be saying that some of these species of conservation interest, dugongs, sword sharks, may swim from the Great Barrier Reef around Cape York and up into the Gulf? So now we're going to shut the Gulf fishing down in case that happens. Like, they really, stretching the limits here. And fishermen just don't understand why. I mean, it would be nice to know where their science is and what they are trying to achieve by this, except wipe out, generations of fishing families. And if you look at somewhere like Corumba in the Gulf, that little township, that's built on fishing. You take fishing out of there, it's not going to survive. Yes, there's tourism there 3 months of the year, but the big input there to the town, to the businesses, is fishing. So, there's a town that's going to go. And, we see in our little town here in Ayr, I see it all. We bought a new net boat last December because we were told that we were safe by fisheries. We're never going to touch this inshore fishery. We spent $120,000 on that boat. Since we bought that, there was 2 other boats ordered by this same manufacturer in Ayr, and they've both been cancelled. I mean, how do little businesses and little towns cop this and absorb these losses? It's just ridiculous that and none of this has been assessed. They just said, we'll just shut fishing down. But our town will lose something like our district will lose something like $12 million once fishing's gone here. You multiply that along the Queensland coast, there's some big losses onshore. And, I think the government should have another look at this.
It's not only just in Queensland this is happening with the Great Barrier Reef. There's general, I think West Australia's also had some attacks on their fishing, commercial fishers. It seems strange to me. We're an island continent. We've got a vast ocean to the west and the south, and to the east with the Pacific. Well, you've got sparsely island, great ocean. Is there any reason why we're sort of so limited in catching our fish, where you go thinking about Europe and places like that? Basically, they've been fishing since Adam was a boy, and they have fairly big fleets of fishers from a lot of nations out in the North Atlantic, and catching a lot of fish, and we still get our sardines from Portugal or other places and that. So obviously there's no sort of same attitude to fishing there as there is here.
And of course, they don't fish to any environmental standard like we fish with. Theirs is nil. We're very well regulated. I must say our fisheries have been well managed. We've got all the green zones that have been put out there, yellow zones that have been put out there, river closures that are there. I mean, the Burdekin area where I fish, the 75% of our waterways are shut to net fishing. And all we can see with the science that's out there is the stock of our main fish, barramundi, is actually increasing. So there's nothing about sustainability about it. That's not the issue. This is just some reason. This has just been driven by UNESCO to get rid of net fishing, and I think they've been lobbied hard by the environment groups, and don't want to see hear the other side of the story, and that's the primary producer.
And it's not just fishing. I mean, we've seen the action over the last 12 months in West Australia, Victoria, with the sudden close down of logging and that. So there's another primary industry that's being hit on the head on the basis of climate change. There's a big push. You can't speak with anyone who's in the public arena, the public service, on any topic without them having to put climate change in the conversation every 5 minutes. And now another attack on primary producers is the federal environment ministers pushing for greater buybacks of water in the Murray-Darling. So is your industry just one of a whole suite of things in regards to just getting people off the land or out of the sea?
Certainly. As I said, we were just the low fruit on the primary industry tree. And if you look at those 10 points that the Prime Minister signed off on 12 months ago, that included the Murray-Darling, it included zero runoff from farming in the Burdekin district, zero runoff up in Ingham, for instance, on the banana farmers. The graziers repair all their gullies, have a look at where they are leasing land along the coast that they might be able to take back, because we don't want to stop any runoff to this Great Barrier Reef. And I've been fishing the reef for 47 years, my dad before that. It is pristine. It is beautiful. If this runoff from sugarcane was hurting that out there, I'd be the first to say something about it. It is not. We got the biggest river in Queensland running out there with in flood time being the Burdekin, and all it does is supply nutrients for our prawns, allows breeding of our barramundi, allows mud crabs to grow, and it is not affecting the reef. But of course, these people that are out there harping on about how bad this reef is, since I've been involved in this industry, they've been out there finding problems all the time, because if they don't find a problem, they don't get funded. And they are just using this as a milking cow to keep them funded for their lifetime.
But the other thing is the government's party to it. The government seems to be fairly happy to facilitate this continuing, the world is ending, we've got to do something. And I don't really see a lot of good signs from the other side of politics either. What sort of feedback are you getting from sort of the LNP or the Nationals and the Liberals in regards to going forward? Will they just capitulate because Albanese's already signed off on this agreement?
Look, I must say it had tremendous support from the Nationals LNP at the federal level. They have been excellent, and they are saying, no, we need to do a pushback on this. I'm hoping that the state LNP will stand up and sort of say, well, hold on, we need to back these guys, and if we win the next election, then we probably need to reinstate some net fishing here so that we can feed our people and keep our businesses in our towns going. That's a big call because the state really haven't been standing up on anything at this stage. But hopefully the big brother and the federal guys can actually lead the way and make the state sort of toe the line a bit, because we do need support. Every primary industry needs support, and those people need votes. And the only way they're going to win the next election is to start standing up for industry and people. And in Queensland, we've got 4 million seafood consumers that are going to be robbed of 2,000 tonne of product with these closures being put in place. So you would think that might even be worth looking at for a vote if I was the opposition.
I think one of the big problems, but is, you're only bloody regional anyway. I mean, you're a small number of voters, small number of seats. We've got to win all the seats around Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne to get elected. These sort of issues don't play much in that sort of area. It really is like the regions on almost everything are being hung out to dry, whether it's renewables, any of the primary industries, and the same thing goes for infrastructure. We don't seem to, unless it's renewables, we don't seem to be getting much. So do you think there needs to be a more push by regional organisations, as not just like the fishing industry, but the graziers and the growers and that, actually getting together a bit more and be a bit more forceful in regards to effectively standing up for the regions as part of the pushback. And it's not just you pushing back for your fisheries, it's everyone pushing in primary industries, pushing back for you in fishing, but then everyone pushing back on things like unfair sort of vegetation management acts. So it's got to be more coordinated and universal in the regions to sort of push back against all these attacks on primary industry.
I agree totally. We had a protest here in the Burdekin and on this fishing issue, but we called it a primary industry protest. And we had great support. There were 400 people turned up to a public meeting and supported the fishing. They were graziers, farmers, and I've got cane farming organisations that are approaching me that we need to stand together. Well, we need to do it now. And we really need to get into the metropolitan area, Brisbane and Sydney, and tell them what is happening and what's being taken from them people. They're not aware of it. I mean, we put our social media video out and it's gone rampant in Brisbane and Sydney. But it needs to be bigger. It needs, as you're saying, it needs all primary industries together. And if you have a look at Pleverset's Environment Minister's her electorate, it's just a small dot in the middle of Sydney. And I mean, she couldn't give a damn about North Queensland. That they're not going to win a seat up here in North Queensland. So they're not worried about losing the seat or winning one up here. But what she is worried about is her seat. And the only threat she's got to losing that seat is from the Greens. So she's going to save this Great Barrier Reef as many times as she can and sacrifice as many primary industries to keep her portfolio, keep her electorate. And it's, you know, you can see what she's doing. She's into the Murray-Darlings. It's all about environment because these metropolitan areas, they're brainwashed with it. But we do need to get a coordinated group together, and we need to be into those cities, and we need to be educating them and start taking some votes from these people. That's the way I see that we're going to make a difference.
Well, that's a good policy. I was also thinking in regards to we've had over the last 6 months, we've had things happen in West Australia in regards to the Cultural Heritage Act. And fortunately, someone similar to yourself, Tony Seabrook, managed to run a bit of a campaign against the legislation for the Aboriginal Heritage and Cultural Act, and get a bit of publicity on Sky News. Now, that did wonders for his situation, and what it did, and we should be really thankful that Sky News Regional is free to air in regional Australia, because this is about the only service that gets regional chaotic stories like the cultural action in Western Australia being broadcast over the whole regional Australia, and us being forewarned about it. Do you think all the organisations, like all growers, graziers, and yourself, the fisheries, need to sort of get together and try to lobby Sky News a lot more in regards to getting the message across, fairly wide, right across the country? I mean, it's only if you can gather whole support across regional Australia that you've got a fairly big group of seats and voters to sort of maybe put the fear of God up some of these parties.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we're lucky we've got Sky, because it's probably the only bit of truth we get on TV these days. At least they'll put it out there, and I think we had a little session on there, my daughter and myself, and it was fantastic. And from that, I had several senators ring me, and actually one turned up yesterday and to my house and visited, wanting to know more about what was happening. So just from 5 minutes on Sky News. That
was with Kremlin, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh, you got to keep on working. Get into Paul Murray as well. He's pretty good on the regions. So, and that's general for a lot of their presenters. They're very sort of sympathetic to regional, and recognise that regional people are somewhat disadvantaged by the clout of the major cities. So, like I say, cane growers, bloody banana growers, yourself and cattle people really need to sort of get yourself into some sort of media conglomerate and say, well, look, we've got to milk all these issues, and we need to make a deputation to Sky News to do this more regularly.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and something that we should work on and see where we can get. I mean, what they do, of course, is they just keep lighting another bushfire around you and keep you fighting, and you think you're fighting for your living, and you think you're fighting for your future, but there's a big picture out there, and they don't want you to sort of get together. They'd rather segregate industries.
I think the other thing is they like picking everyone off one by one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the same thing with the Vegetation Management Act. It was all about I don't know how, but it's always about saving the bloody reef. Fear of losing World Heritage. I mean, if someone says that the reef no longer had World Heritage listing? Would it change the condition of the reef? Would it change the marketing of tourism for people to come? No, the marketers and the tourists would still be showing those videos of pristine reefs or places they're diving on. So why are we sort of continually basically terrorized by this losing the World Heritage listing? It doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't give us any money.
Absolutely. And I mean, the federal environment minister keeps saying we've got 63,000 jobs out there to look after. Well, I think the jobs are still going to be there, whether it's put on the endangered list or not. It's not going to go anywhere. The reef looks after itself. It's a living animal. It's and it goes through cycles. I've been out there over the years where a cyclone's come through and just decimated a section. You just see the whole lot, several reefs tipped upside down, smashed to pieces, and then an algae bloom there from all these dead animals, the reef being dead, and then you see an influx of fish coming in to eat the broken reef. Within 2 years, you've got a beautiful reef back again. So, you know, it looks after itself. It's proven that, but we just got too many people coming out of university that just want to make it an issue for their lifetime.
Yeah, the other thing is by not taking any fish off the reef, how does that sort of improve the reef? I don't really understand that. I mean, life is life. I mean, sharks eat other fish, and then we take fishermen are always taking some sort of percentage of the sea life out of the sea. So exactly how do they sort of envisage or put it over that by not fishing it will be better? What's the what's the argument?
They're just there saying the fish is there to be looked at and not eaten. You know, I'll tell you now that the tourists and the people we deal with that service the tourist industry out on the islands and stuff with our fish, they're all screaming that they want to keep this fish because they come here to eat our fish. They come here to sit in a restaurant and eat the best coral trout or the best barramundi, wild caught stuff. They don't want the farm product. They don't want imported. They can get that anywhere else in the world, but they can't get this fresh fish off our reefs anywhere else. And they're missing the point. You know, we supply a big market out there with the tourists, and you know, by getting rid of us, you're just putting another nail in the coffin as far as restaurants go that service these people.
Yeah, I'm sure people fly all the way over to Australia and pay a premium for accommodation, and then go to a restaurant and be happy to know that they're having their barramundi that's come from Thailand out of a fishing pond or aquaculture farm. So I don't think that would be impress them very much at all.
Well, our primary industries minister's made several statements that we're going to fill the gap of the net caught fish with aquaculture. So we're going to grow it on land here in Queensland. We're going to be the world capital, he said, on aquaculture. Now, if you have a look, there's 300,000 tonne of product consumed, seafood in Australia at the moment. China produces 50 million tonnes of aquaculture. I mean, how are we ever going to compete with these sort of people? And what he's saying is things like barramundi, yes, they can grow that in a pond, but they can't grow the cheaper varieties of fish, whether it be a black scale mullet, a clean fish, a salmon, a mackerel, whatever. They can't grow those in ponds. Where do we get all that from? You know, it's easy to say we'll just grow it through aquaculture, but that won't be the case. And yeah.
But it might be also part of the whole program as well. You will be eating bugs in the future. You won't be eating steaks, and you won't be eating fish, and you won't be eating good grains. You'll have a mixture of pulp that's and mush that's made from insects and all sorts of bits and pieces. It seems like I say, it's like the old conspiracy theory. Like it's actually becoming real, which is a bit of a worry. I mean, I used to sort of rubbish, people who had those conspiracy theories, but it seems that all over the internet you have quite elevated people in society. You're sort of preaching this sort of stuff, and no one pulls them up.
I think it's spot on, and that's the point I can't get. Why don't we want food producing primary industries? Because they want us to eat these bugs, and I'm definitely believing what you're saying. I think this is where we're going to be. We'll be having a pill, or we'll be having some bit of mash. It's not going to be rump steak. It's not going to be barramundi. It's yeah, we're not in a good place, and we really need to wake up to it. And people need to get their head out of the sand and say, hold on, we need to support these industries, or, you know, we, the consuming public of Australia, is not going to enjoy the food that we've enjoyed in the past.
Do you also think after COVID that most Australians were deemed to be so compliant with the rules and sort of lived in fear of what the government was delivering to them, that both the politicians and the people overseas, who unelected officials who want to have this agenda, think we're an easy target and sort of can easily be manipulated?
I think COVID was the start of it. It was just to see how much they could control us. They did a bloody good job, and you know, it's now it's just going on from there, where they're going to control us with what we grow, what we catch, what we eat. That's where we're heading, and I'm not a conspiracist, but it's looking that we're in trouble, and we need to, we all need to think about it and stand together and say, no, let's push back. And honestly, I do think the federal opposition are on the right track, because they're talking the way we're talking. This is not good.
The other, just coming back to aquaculture, my impression from aquaculture is some of these ponds that they have, there's a lot of nutrients in the water, because, you know, they've got to grow the fish, so they need a lot of feed. I'm not sure what sort of other additives they do to make healthy fish that they might put in. I don't know. But then there's the release of that water, and speaking to a few people, some of the controls on that water and its release is somewhat less than stringent. They seem to have a lot of scope in regards to how they operate, and there is a suggestion that a lot of the nutrients actually do get in the waterways. Do you think it's becoming a sort of bit of an unfair playing field in regards to aquaculture versus wild fishing?
Look, I think the government's using this, trying to put us against each other. There's room for aquaculture, but there's a market for aquaculture, and it doesn't hurt the wild caught stuff. Aquaculture will never take over the wild caught seafood market. If we're not catching the wild caught stuff, the black market is going to move in. So the illegal netters are going to come in, because people are still going to want this. So we're going to create heaps of problems by getting rid of us. Look, a lot of the aquaculture is as far as is self-monitored. When they're discharging out in the ocean, it's self-monitored. I mean, like, you would think that it'd be a little bit better than that, because just in case there is something going out there. But you know, I see aquaculture as something that's there filling a market. And I see every day on the Sydney fish market, for instance, there's a couple of ton of barramundi a day going on the auction floor, and it's selling for $7, $8, $9 a kilo. I mean, our barramundi is around $15 a kilo. These people say their production cost is about 12. They can't sell the fish they've got now. So does the government want to get rid of us to think they're going to sell that fish? I don't know, but I don't think it's going to take the place. I know it won't take the place, and it won't be accepted in the marketplace to take the place of wild caught fish.
Well, if the aquaculture can be self-monitoring, why can't the farmers and the cane growers and that be self-monitoring for what they release into the water?
Exactly right. I mean, there is two different standards here. There's one that we've got a government pushing, that's aquaculture, and the other one is what they're trying to push out, and that's primary production. And that's the way it is.
Well, do you think what do you think it will take for the public in general to wake up to the way that the environment has been weaponized to get it to almost head us into a direction of regression and retreat from the land and the sea, And I see it as a bit of a treasonous sort of system where they're sort of making it unviable to live in the regions with all these regulations on industry that makes it harder for a grower, a cattleman, a cane grower himself to make a reasonable living, and basically pull up stumps and retreat to Sydney, Melbourne or Brisbane out of it. It does seem to be a fairly continuous cycle of issues they keep bringing up and new regulations that overload industry, primary industry in the regions. I mean, there's no primary industries in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane. We're the only ones who are going to get done. So it's all on us. But when do we get organised and push back?
We can't wait any longer. We need to get organised yesterday. It's and people in the cities honestly are not going to know until they haven't got it. So when they haven't got fresh food, they're going to say, where did it go? And as I say, these politicians we've got at the moment, the Labor politicians, are interested in us. They are just interested in votes, and the votes that they can get in the metropolitan area by saving things like the Great Barrier Reef and putting out all this rubbish about what damage is being done by all these industries is just brainwashing these people. So, yep, we need to get in there and tell them the truth.
The other thing is too, I mean, especially Central and North Queensland, we don't have much representation in regards to the Liberal National Party. I mean, the National Party that typically supposedly looked after regional people, and previously it was called the Country Party, were really aligned with regional thought people and their interests. We don't have that anymore, and we see that in Central and North Queensland, out of about 19 seats, there's only 4 LNP members, and the most northerly one is in the Burdick and Dale Last. So the Labor is probably thinking they're quite comfortable historically holding anywhere between 11 and 12 seats of those 19. Do you think we can sort of encourage the LNP or even the Catters and that to be a bit more aggressive in regards to being completely regional focused in the future?
I think that's needs to happen. I'm slowly seeing support. You talk about Dale Last. Well, I've had support from Dale, but I think his hands are tied when he gets down to Brisbane of what can happen. I mean, the party needs to make a decision here, and they need to get out there and say, well, we've got to stand up to these people. But the Catters, they've been terrific for the fishing industry. They have been very supportive. I think the Catters and the LNP, need to be talking to each other a lot more than what they are and supporting each other, because they're not against each other. They're all out there to represent us people in the regional areas and the country people.
Well, I always had an issue in regards to with the LNP, and like you say, the party room down in Brisbane is going to make the decisions, and while we have situations where the local members can sort of give you all the encouragement and support they can muster. When they get down into that party room, they're sort of just one voice of well, actually the LNP is not really great. I think they're down to 34 seats anyway after the last election. So, but Dale and I think Bryson Heads in Collide. I think you've got two more around the place. In Whitsundays is Amanda Cam, and I can't remember that, but there's still only 4 of 30 in the parliamentary room. So they've got to do a lot of convincing to get that party to sort of really kick in for these sort of issues. And I don't have much faith in Chris Foley in regards to. I remember he was here was in the Newman government, was a member of from Mundenborough, I think, in Townsville. Well, after he lost, he did a runner down to the southeast and is really well entrenched in surface paradise. So, although he sort of gives the speech that he's the boy from Innisfail, I'm not convinced that he's the person to sort of really fight for regional Queensland. But we will see.
He's certainly a northern boy. I've had dealings with him in the past. He really needs to stand up now and show his leadership, and he needs to, stamp it on the committee down there in southeast Queensland, because he's going to lose support if he doesn't. So I'd be calling on him to stand up and represent us. And instead, he just seems to be sitting back thinking that the current government will make enough mistakes that it'll hand him the election.
I think that they always think, well, it's the other people's turn to lose, not them to actually go out there and have good policies and fight the good fight. And we see that in regards to when the Parliament was in Cairns. I mean, the Labor government announced the pathway to treaty, and he put his hand up. Yeah, we support that. Didn't even involve the membership or the party, and you can see that was just, well, I'm following that way because the people in Brisbane might think that way. Hopefully, with the voice and the way it's heading, maybe some of the attitudes of pre-dawn thinking might change, and they might start fighting for things again, hopefully, and fighting for your rights and all primary industry people's rights in the regions might come to the forefront, and hopefully just also resisting the renewables energy and its wide effect onto regional Queensland, because we're the ones who are bearing the brunt.
Like, the renewables are a joke. It's ridiculous. They don't have to answer to anyone, and it's a terrible situation. And I think most people don't understand what they're actually doing, what they're doing with the land, what they're doing with the animals, and they haven't got to abide by any sort of legislation. If they want to go in there and cut every tree down on a hill, they can do that. A farmer can't.
Well, it must make people like the people have to comply with the amendments to the Vegetation Management Act in regards to ground cover and soil stability and sort of runoff. It must irritate them in regards to, well, we can't clear a bit of regrowth, but all of a sudden you can allow people in the renewable industry to plough 70-metre wide strips across hilltops in sort of forest areas and things like that. And sort of no one mentions anything about runoff from those sort of things. But if you're going to plough up, thousands and thousands of hectares of roadways on hilltops and that, there has to be some runoff, somewhere along the line. But it doesn't come into the conversation. But like you say, with primary producers, it's, well, let's keep them under the thumb to the nth degree.
Exactly what you just said. That runoff is going to cause a huge issue running out, and if there was any danger to the reef, they'd be stopping it. They're not. They're allowing that to happen. So it's the double standards.
It will be interesting.
Do what you like. Yep.
It'd be interesting if the science will come out in support of, oh no, having the wind farm roads and that cut into the landscape is fine because it doesn't do any harm to the reef. Well, you can't say that and then say that, well, the farmer doing something is damaging. But this is the sort of hypocrisy we're up against. And the thing is, they're so bald-faced about it. They don't care. They don't care if you come up with facts and figures and data. They just say, not interested, not interested. These are the rules. End of story. We've got our expert advice, and we're adhering to it.
Yep, we've heard from UNESCO, and they've been informed by WWF. So it's all good.
In regards to scientists on our side of the block, basically, like people like Peter Ridden, have they been engaged in regards to looking at what's going on as well? Because I know they were doing a fair bit of work in regards to the Vegetation Management Act and the runoff, and especially in regards to the supposed silt and fertilizer and pesticides and that can never be measured or seen on the reef. Are you getting any sort of assistance from those people and those organisations that are in, like the Institute of Public Affairs and things like that? Are getting any traction with those people in support?
Certainly Peter Ridd's come out recently from talking about the dugongs and how well they are going out there and how they're multiplying and whatever. And I mean, James Cook University has just come out with a press release that they happen to mention the Federal Environment Minister's name on, and the first time I've ever seen a Federal Environment Minister's name mentioned, or any other minister, on a JCU press release saying dugongs are declining 2.3% a year. We need to do something about it. Let's stop net fishing.
And send more money.
Well, there's an elephant in the room there, and that's the Indigenous hunting. And they haven't got to report anything, but they can take as many dugongs as they like. And where I support that culture, that they should be able to go and do that. They've done it all their life.
Yeah, but not in tinnies and outboard motors.
Well, how about we just include that in the management plan? And what management plan? We haven't even got one, but they can come out and say we're declining 2.3. We'd better get rid of the net fishing because it may have an interaction with a dugong. It's sorry, not good enough.
Yes, but the whole point is just putting that story out there, even though there's no validity about it, just getting it in the media, and it's just another thing that goes out in the Herald Sun in Melbourne and the Daily Telegraph down in Sydney, the Courier Mail in Brisbane, and all these people who are doomsday practitioners. It's just another bit of information they store in their head against regional and primary industry. And it's done the job.
It has. I mean, they've done a good job on it. And yeah, all I can say is I'm happy to fight back. We just need other industries to stand up and be prepared to do it, and not wait until something like what's happened to us happens to them. And it's going to happen in the next 2 years. All industries are going to cop it, including coal. I mean, they want coal phased out by 2035. The Prime Minister's signed off on that as well. So, I don't know where they're going to get their money from once they get rid of coal, but
so we won't be able to grow our own food. We won't be able to catch our own fish. We won't have any exports to bring in income to generate taxes for royalties, good paying jobs that give income tax, general development. So we'll have no money for schools. We'll have no money for education. Exactly how far back to the dark ages can we go?
yeah, I'll leave that one to you to work out.
Yeah, but like I say, we need industry, and the one thing now that with the debt we've got, we need to grow the pie. So if anything, we need the fishing industry and people to be productive and earning and contributing to the economy. We need the graziers to step up and have more cattle and that, and then we need the growers to do all the same. So that's what the people in the city need as wealth creation income, because all they do in the city is recycle money. They don't actually create new wealth. And so I think we might be in for a bit of a shock if we continue going this way, but I don't think the alarm bells are rung loud enough yet, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, I hope that all we can do is hope for that to happen. But I certainly watch out for the fishing industry. I think they're not going to go down without a huge fight, particularly now the Gulf's been involved in it. I think we'll all stand as one, and yeah, let's see what we can come up with. And hopefully,
okay, we've just gone on the hour on that, so we'll wrap it up here. Just some final words in regards to what action plans you've got going ahead, especially if there's moves afoot into the Gulf. That's going to affect a lot bigger part of the fishing industry, you know, from prawning to the rest of it. Do you see the campaign growing in the near future to encompass all these other likely scenarios?
Yes, I do. I think that's a must. As far as the East Coast, the Barrier Reef closure, net closure goes, we've put a proposal up to government, and we're hoping that I don't see anything else they can do but buy out all fishing licenses and all quota that's attached to those licenses, buy out some of the infrastructure that people are going to have out there that are stranded. But they have, in doing that, they need to create then another symbol to allow some fishing to continue, certainly for the next 3 years, so that we can look at how else we can harvest fish that's going to satisfy these people. The next generation needs an opportunity. We don't need to stop at the end of this month. The Gulf of Carpentaria, that is huge. You know, we're talking some of the operators, one of the main operators up there, you're talking tens of millions of dollars he's got invested up there. And he supplies all fish and chip shops with mackerel from Cairns through to Rockhampton. And, you know, it is absolutely massive that he's going to stop. So where do we get that fish from the fish and chip shop? So this is not just about the fresh fish. Losing that mackerel supply from the Gulf is going to be, yeah, really bad.
Well, the problem is the people who are pushing this don't have any conscience about what happens to the people involved in the industry, unfortunately. But there again, like I say, I hope people and other industries rally around you and the fight forward, and something can be done, at least get the other side of politics engaged and sort of at least making some noise, and also putting some concrete policies up that they're committed to going forward in the future. Because unless they actually put these things up in their policy and prepared to take them to the election, and that their support can dissipate fairly quickly.
We'll certainly be asking the state LNP to develop some policy around us continuing, and hopefully they have the balls to do that and put it up. We'll see how they go.
Okay then, Neil, look, thanks very much for your time again tonight. If you just stay on the line, I'll just introduce next week's show, and we'll talk again soon, and I'll just have a chat after we go off the air. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Phil.
If you enjoyed tonight's show, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook page, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join me again next week when I talk to Paul Gilmore in regards to volunteers and what's happening to the volunteering rate within North Queensland. Primarily on the fire service, the rural fire service, but overall, the participation in volunteering is dropping away fairly rapidly, and it's a mixture of bureaucracy being put on to the volunteers, and general policy from the governments in regards to the lack of support of volunteers. So please join me again next week. Thank you.